So in this self-check question, we asked which types of tests could be run repeatably and independently, because we know that those are two of the attributes from the first acronym that make for a good test suite. So one of them was, what if you have code that relies on randomness, like shuffling a deck of cards? You would think that because randomness is part of what the code does, you can't test it repeatably. But in fact, there's a couple of different ways to do it. One possibility in the case of something like shuffling a deck of cards is to keep track of the random number generator seed that was used when you ran the code, and to capture a particular execution order associated with that seed. The way random number generators work is if they're a software or pseudo-random number generator, once you've established the seed value, the sequence of random numbers that comes out of the generator is deterministic. So that would be one way that tests of type A could in fact be run in a repeatable and independent manner. What about tests of type B, code that relies on the time of the day? Well, as we will learn when we talk more about testing, a key concept in testing is the ability to fake out the behavior of collaborator classes that are separate from the class you're testing. In example B, an example of a collaborator class would be the library that provides the time of day. And what we could do is fake out that library with a so-called stub that returns a known time of day. We could basically return a canned value for the time of day, and then we could test that our code does the right thing depending on what canned value is returned. Another strategy that is worth mentioning for cases of type A where there's randomness involved looks at the spectral properties of the result. So if you were testing, for example, code to flip a fair coin, we know that a fair coin should come up heads about 50% of the time. So you could write a test suite where one of the tests flips a coin, or a virtual coin, a large number of times, and checks to see whether the proportion of heads and tails is within some relatively modest value of 50-50. So the moral of the story is, even if something seems non-deterministic or seems to depend on external conditions, there's usually some way you can think of to either control the conditions it depends on or establish repeatable conditions for the purposes of testing. And we'll keep coming back to this over and over again so that every time you think of a new feature you want to add to your code, you're automatically asking yourself the question, how could I test this?